Hi, welcome along to AFTV. We are back for another video with everybody's favourite doctor. Well, listen, my favourite doctor, right? Dr. Andre from Oxford Natural in the building. We're going to be discussing in this video something that I'm sure all of you guys, are all too familiar with, and it's injuries. Injuries to players, right? So we've got the expert here, and we're going to be discussing it. But just before we do, Dr. Andre, I'm still losing weight, man. It's still, it's small, just little by little, pound here and a pound there, but it's still going good. I'm still, taking the supplements, the daytime, religiously now. It's good, man. I'm feeling good.
Amazing. I mean, you do find that you can plateau, and some of those losses and those gains that you had initially, they can sort of fade a little bit. They don't stop, but it's not as dramatic as in the beginning sometimes. But you just need to persevere, keep doing what you're doing. I think the way the supplements, the Optimum, the Day, the Night, gets you doing other things that are healthy as well, in terms of how much you move, how much you exercise, the quality of your sleep, the speed of thought. These are all things which are not easy to quantify sort of day to day, but when you space it out over months, you start seeing that you are a better version of yourself compared to a few months ago.
Yeah.
So perseverance. I keep
listen. I ain't stopping, man. I ain't stopping. I'm enjoying this healthier lifestyle. And then it has a knock-on effect to a lot of other things, like in just that I just eat a lot better. I just I just feel consciously that I want to just eat as healthy as possible. Listen, you still have your days where but on the whole, I just feel, it's been good.
I'm pushing this idea of living an 80-20 life, whereby 80% of the time you do the right things, and bearing in mind just the nature of being humans and open to temptation. 20% you go a bit wobbly. Okay, if you can do an 80-20 life on anything, but particularly when it comes to metabolism, what you eat, healthy, that's a decent goal. No one needs to be perfection. It's just too hard to achieve that. But going forward, keep that in mind. Keep it 80-20, then you're doing well. Okay,
well, listen, if you want to get your hand on some of those supplements, again, the link is in the description, right? Big up to my friend Ada. The other day, we was on a little call, and he pulled out the green nighttime. He said, I saw it on the video, and man, I'm trying to help this to help. He designs lots of graphics and stuff like that. But I know he does a lot of hours. He goes to help my sleep, so big him up. But we're going to discuss injuries, Dr. Andre, right? Arsenal Football Club last season had the most injuries in the Premier League. 27 injuries, the most. I think the second most was 21, which I think might have been either Spurs or Aston Villa.
Brighton.
But Arsenal had was it Brighton? Yeah, Brighton. Yeah. Arsenal had the most. Long-term injuries as well. Bukayo Saka out for nearly 4 months. Ben White missed, a big chunk of the season with injuries. Takehiro Tomiyasu literally played like one or two games for the season, out literally the whole season. Kai Havertz got injured. He was out from the end of January. Came back and played like 2 games at the end of the season, and even that was just off of the bench. Gabriel Jesus out for the season. Zinchenko at the start of the season, he was out for about 2-3 months. Who else? Miko Marino, he fractured his shoulder in training. He had no pre-season. He was injured. Gabriel Magalhaes, our best defender this season, got injured March, out for the season. We didn't see him again. I saw him at the. What is really funny is at the end of the season, they do, when they have the last game at home, they have all the players come out.
Of course, yeah.
And they sort of do like a lap of appreciation, they call it, where they walk around and they clap the fans. And I was just looking, I was going, hey, that's Gabriel. Hey, all these players I haven't seen for months, right? When they're walking around, you know what I mean? Their injuries were horrendous. And whilst, Liverpool were brilliant this season, and, they could still probably have won the league anyway, but certainly any chance of winning the league, that cost Arsenal big time. Probably when you're looking at it in a grand scheme of things, probably, fortunate, pulled off a good job, even just to get in second place with that amount of injuries. That sort of volume of injuries is very, very hard to sustain a challenge in the Premier League. But the question is being asked, why are there so many injuries? Is this just bad luck? Or is this because the training's too intense? Are they pushing these players so much that they're breaking down and getting injured? Because, there's even players in there that just didn't look themselves this season. Another injury is Martin Odegaard, the captain, out for about 3 months.
It's unusual for him.
Came back, just did not look the same. You know what I mean? Player of the season 2 years in a row for Arsenal. Came back. He's about a million miles off player of the season this year. Is this a factor?
Well, I think when you review a season such as Arsenal had, and this 27 injuries is historically bad, and it's double what Liverpool had, and I think a third more than, say, what Man City had. So you can't ignore it. I think during the season I was saying, well, you've got to wait until the season's over to see how many injuries there are. But that number needs a major review. What I think I've summarised probably is the squad, the science, and the style.
Right.
Okay, so those three things you really have to focus on. It's unlikely one thing in isolation is to blame for so many injuries. You've got to look at all the aspects that feed into an injury, sort of injury cocktail that's happening. So I think you take the summer to review these things because you can look back with some sensibility at that point. You're too close to it in the season. Now you can take a look back. And I think no one will take responsibility for it in the club. Okay, because the second you put your hand up and say, you know what, that might have been us. You're out the door. They'll probably fire somebody, someone they can sort of give the impression that maybe it was something to do with them. Okay, so some sort of low-level sacking might be in order. But certainly in terms of squad, I think maybe you would know in terms of the size of the squad. And
a small squad also went with Mikel Arteta.
So
said it right at the start of the season. Yeah. Yes, it's quite a small squad. And you see teams go with small squads, like Manchester City. The other day, Pep Guardiola was saying that, I've told the owners I want a small squad or I'll go. So, and his thinking around it is that, if you have such a big squad, you have, if everyone's fit, you've got a dressing room full of unhappy players because those players who don't play are moping around the place. But yeah, certainly Arsenal got a small squad.
Yeah, and whether they're versatile, whether they're people that can do multiple roles, which is the key to a small squad, isn't it? That you can do more than one job. If they're too specific in what they do, then that puts additional pressure because you really can't replace like for like and rest the way you would like to. So certainly, whether you can get the medical team involved in that, because also you don't take on players who are injury prone. So again, a small squad, are we taking on players who look good, shiny, lovely? They'll do great things for the club when they're fit, but actually they're more prone to injury. And you want it taking on a bit of a white elephant as it is, whereby they look good, but they cost you so much because they're not playing enough. So careful player selection that way. And maybe the medical team having some role in saying, we don't, as good as they are, that's not great for us. That creates a vulnerability in the squad rather than a pure strength. So those selections are very, very important. So the depth, it's a very young squad as well as being a small squad. And that made me think about training and the nature of the training, because you spend much more time training than playing. So injuries certainly do occur in games, but the amount of kicks, shots, passes in training vastly outweighs those in the game. So is there an issue whereby you train a small young squad in a way that maybe you wouldn't train older, more experienced, broader squad? Is there a great attrition to having their style, which is a very high press, high pressure, high possession style, which needs lots of aggressive, explosive running back and forth all the time? And is that in a young squad, a small squad, a non-versatile squad, putting huge demands on them, and therefore players are breaking down for that reason? Now, you've watched them all season, you know how the style of play.
I mean, like the style of play is like how you described there. It's intense. I think like the style of play is like every player in that team is expected when they don't have the ball to work very hard to get that ball back. It's not like back in the day, you might be a striker, and it's just like the manager say, yeah, you just stay up front.
Do what you do.
It's quite fascinating actually, because I saw an interview with Mo Salah, where he said that when Arne Slot came in, he said to him that, if you leave me up front and I don't have to do all the tracking back, I will get you the goals. I will score goals for you. And that's kind of what they did with him. So you watch Liverpool playing, Mo Salah doesn't do a lot of work off the ball. I was in Saudi Arabia the other day, I was watching Ronaldo play for Al Nassr. He did no work. All he did is he just stayed up front and waited for the ball to come to him. But when you play for Arsenal, every player has to do their work off the ball. You see Saka getting back into defence, and Martinelli and these guys sprinting up and down the pitch to help out. So Declan Rice, up and down. I mean, so yeah, every player has to put it in.
Yeah, and so over time...
And sorry to break into you, you're saying they'd have to be doing that in training as well?
Well, there's no way. It has to be done in training for it to occur on the pitch. No other way that can happen. So there's this potential for a small bunch of players who are very specialised, do a ton of work, both in training and also in the games. And there seems to be maybe no way out of that cycle unless you take on some more people or ease off on training. Now, then how do you monitor players? Because if that can't change overnight, is there a way of monitoring players to look for breakdown, injury? Now, you mentioned this term red zone for players. So is that something which Arsenal give a great deal of thought to? We don't know the workings of the sports science department, but we know that Man City, for example, really put a huge amount into player tracking of speed, of muscle injury, of their performance and movement in terms of GPS tracking on the pitch, and things like heart rate variability. And you see people now wearing these Aura rings and whoops, these devices to measure things like heart rate variability. Yeah. And there are far better ways of measuring it very specifically. But in simple terms, if your heart beats, say your heart's now beating, say 60 beats a minute, you're quite relaxed, you've done this a few times, you're not too tense, but so 60 beats a minute. But it's not beating every second, exactly. There's some variance. It beats before the second or just after the second. There's actually a variance. And the more variable that is, the more fit you are, because it means your body is ready to go quick or go slow. If it's fixed, if the heart rate variability is very low, like it's always on the beat, it means you are what's called sympathetically driven. Your adrenaline system drives you. And that's an indicator that you are running on effectively empty. Because there should be a balance in your nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, and things like heart rate variability, they can measure that. So if you say, oh, I'm feeling tired, am I just tired, or am I actually genuinely running on my adrenal system and burning myself out? You can measure that with some clever cardiac tests. So one hopes they do those sorts of things, but maybe they have to up their game on that and be more obedient to that data and not just ignore it. So maybe there's some things they could do more in the sports science field to check players towards their vulnerability for injury, which is the key. Stopping it. I mean, prevention always better than cure.
Well, one of the other things is that, there's been accusations of around Arsenal is the lack of squad rotation. So, as we just said, it's a small squad, but then, when they're fit, that squad tends to play the majority of the games. So, and some of the players that went down injured last year are players that have played a lot of games. So Bukayo Saka is one. Over the last few seasons, plays literally every single game. There was even like sometimes we're playing in games that, you're thinking, could he be rested in those games? A Carabao Cup game, and or he's been brought on in games where we're winning, and you're thinking, well, it's a Carabao Cup game, we're winning. Did we really need to bring him on? Is that a factor you think as well? If you don't rotate that squad enough, so as I said, players like Martin Odegaard always playing. He actually got injured on international duty. I think Saka's first injury of the season was on international duty as well. So you got these players like that. They're not being rotated really when they're playing in the league, and also they're not. They're playing all their team games for their country. Declan Rice, I think. Him and Saka, they had the Euros last year, so they had they had the whole season Then straight away, like you're into a camp and you're training with England. Then a couple of weeks holiday, then you're back in training and the season started.
Yeah, I don't know precisely what happens on international duty, because my thought would be that if you've been picked and you turn up to play an international, sorry, I'd be surprised if they check all your data to see if you're approaching a bit of burnout. They want you to play now, and the team will sort you out. So there is an issue, I think. Before I choke too much, Robbie. There is an issue there, I think, in terms of the international side. Maybe not being quite so concerned about your burnout rate, because they got you for a few days and then send you back to the team who can then look after you.
And they played in the Euros, which is a tournament where, you know, you're playing games every few days, you know. So even nowadays, really, when you think about, you know, the league, it's like Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, Champions League, right? And all of those games are intense. Like, you know, these are huge games in the Champions League. You know, we were playing Real Madrid, PSG, all these games. They got extended format. I mean, is this another factor as well? The amount of games these players are being expected to play. Because you think of it, let's just say, again, Saka and Declan Rice. So they've had all the Euros. Then they come back, all the games in the Premier League. Then the Champions League starts from September. An extended format now with more games. And listen, this weren't just for Arsenal. This was for all the teams in the Champions League. But extended format now where there's more games in that Champions League format. And there's more pressure to win those games because the league format now. You don't have games where previously you could rest a couple of players because you know you're through to the next round. You kind of don't know where you're going to finish until right at the last game of the group stage. Those games finish later now. They go into the new year. It used to finish before Christmas, before you got back into the Champions League and the knockout phases. You know, I mean, it's an incredible amount of games they've been asked to play. And this season, this doesn't apply for Arsenal, but if you're a Man City player or a Chelsea player, you've got the Club World Cup now, which is, again, another tournament of intense... I mean... They're flogging these players to death, aren't they?
They are, and it seems amazing that players don't get injured given the fixture congestion. And it's not just physical impact, is it? It's mental impact. You know yourself, if you're good at what you do, you're good at your job, brilliant. Okay, you work your normal hours, then demand goes up and suddenly you've got to do extra shows or extra shifts or whatever. And you know, within a few days of doing that additional, you start to feel you're not quite as sharp as you were. Something's maybe slightly missing. You can sort of just tick it over, but it's not quite the quality you normally deliver. And then if you're tired or your sleep is poor, or you travel through time zones, then you've got that additional mental fatigue and the mistakes that happen there too. I mean, and that sort of demand affects players. I guess it probably affects management too. I mean, let's face it, imagine the manager's mentality 2/3 into the season. It's probably not as fresh as it was in the first month because they're probably ground down by the constant pressure of things. And so you have to also look at players' mental well-being as well. Make sure they're not getting worn out mentally, because mental stress will lead to physical stress. I'm not trying to say that they're sort of fragile things to be kept in aspic or something, but it's just the reality of things. If you keep pushing, demanding excellence, and then just increase the frequency you demand it, there'll always be a drop-off. The question is, why would Arsenal be so badly affected compared to every other club? Because they're all in similar situations, aren't they? And I mean, as always, I suppose the medical department will have to look at itself fairly stringently and say, are we doing things in the correct way? Are we involved enough in decision making, or are we very much on the outside? And ex-players and management are making all things on a football week-to-week decision, and no one's really thinking about the long-term health of players in the club, because we're looking for just results. And I guess when the team starts flying high in the league and does well to begin with, this has to keep going. We can't drop, and therefore they might sort of push the medical advice to one side and just take a chance on things and hope that they can muddle through with the players that they have. There's also facilities. I mean, you should look at that, shouldn't you? If you go look at your training ground, what are they playing on in training? Is it a decent turf or grass? Is there some there?
I've been to a training ground. They've got excellent pitches. The pitches are designed to replicate the pitches they're going to play on. So designed to replicate exactly the same as the pitch at the Emirates. And I know that a lot of teams are able to replicate the pitch, the size of the pitch, everything that they're actually going to play that weekend, even when it's an away game.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
So
plenty of preparation in that way. So it just seems like there was just, I mean, you really burn it down. What would have, obviously you can't avoid every injury. Some are just traumatic. Someone just comes and kicks you. What are you going to do in those situations? But I think this idea of versatility, if you're going to run that style of game, whereby you press, and you don't rest people, then that's going to be difficult in any format, isn't it? If your decision that's our ethos, that's our ethic, you need to get the players that match that ethic in terms of versatility, quality, and number.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, breaking it down, you'd be saying first thing you've got to do a big review of everything that went on last season, every injury, every reason why, and have a look at every department with regards to those injuries. That's what you're saying, number one.
Yes.
Right? Number two, I think you seem to suggest that they need a bigger squad.
Yes, yeah. I'm not paying for it, so it's easy to say it. But I think almost certainly. Yeah. Almost certainly.
And number three, you seem to be suggesting that don't go and buy any player that has any history of or is an injury-prone player.
Yeah, you need to really seriously discuss the true value of a player, not just in terms of what he can do when he's there fit at his best, but overall what is his likely attendance and likely to be there to perform for you. Because so many players, it's just wishful thinking. They're going to come to you and your department will take care of them and they'll be fine. It's wishful thinking often, and often it's just the same thing happens again. They break down a couple of games and then they're just there as a burden in that way. So I think I'd always say when you do this sort of review end of season, are we listening to the medical team? They're trained people, they're highly skilled, they have tons of data. Is that really being listened to? And is prevention of injury up there toward the top of the list? Because think about how much time you guys spend talking about players and who'll play where and who does this and who this. And really, but then he gets injured and it's just a waste of time. There's nothing more important than the guys on the pitch, getting them on
nothing
there.
If you're injured.
Nothing else matters if the person just isn't there. I mean, there's just a figment of your imagination then once they're not actually fit and playing. So, yeah, please make sure that those medical professionals are involved in those decisions, and then that's the best way, I think, to put prevention first.
Finally, you as a medical, obviously you're a doctor. You was a doctor at Everton. Did they listen to you? Did they listen to you when you used to say all these things?
To be absolutely honest.
Yeah.
When I was there, and I was with a fellow doctor who'd been there for about 30 years, and they really did. There was enough of a family club atmosphere to Everton whereby you could be heard, and they would genuinely. And I did. I said to you about when I did like Gazza's medical and things. I was thinking, well, what am I going to tell them about late stage career Gaza? What am I going to tell the board about that? And they said, well, we just need to know this answer to this question. Can you give us that answer? I was like, yeah, I can answer that someone can be fit for a year. That's fine. Yeah, as opposed to 10-year, 5-year contracts or whatever. So if you've been there long enough and they respect your view, then yes, they will. But not always. Players will appear from nowhere thinking, wow. But you could definitely be heard. Be heard. Yeah, for sure.
So you advised them not to sign Gaza?
So no, far from it. No, I wanted him. I wanted him. Whatever.
But you just advised them that he ain't going to be able to stay fit for a long time.
When a player has a long, complex history, then you're hoping that the contract details are a short term and not too expensive. Then that's fine. Okay. But if they wanted to go longer, you go, whoa, no, that's just never going to work. We're just burning money and asking for trouble.
So you could see with certain players that long term their body ain't going to last.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can establish risk that way. World is always open to sort of the rare things that happen, but you get a very good feel for someone's duration and what's safe. The way you know yourself, it's a gut feeling of this is not safe at all, or yeah, this could work. If it didn't work, Worst case scenario, we don't lose that much. That seems to be the best way to look at it.
Okay, well, listen, there's some good advice there, and I want the Arsenal squad to take, well, the manager and those people in power to listen, especially that one around a bigger squad, right? Because I feel that's one thing I feel as well. This small squad thing didn't work last year. Really, really cost us, and I do think they're going to need a bigger squad. And avoid injury-prone players because we seem to have a few. And yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of luck involved as well. But like you said, a big review's needed at Arsenal. We had a lot of problems with injuries last season. Hopefully we won't have that for the coming season, and we can go on and try and win what we're trying to achieve, which is trying to win that league. Dr. Andre, as always, thank you very much for coming in today. And once again, just tell him about the supplements.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're saying that a bigger squad is often a good idea, and it's the same with our supplementation. We have great products: Optimum Day, Optimum Night. Mustn't forget the rest of the squad: Elixir and Radiant, and the Digest too, which we have as well. But ultimately, slow and steady wins a race when it comes to supplementation. If you want better energy, better sleep, better mood, better sugar control, Optimum Day and Night, and check out our other products as well.
Thank you.